Knows Death. Starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the weird series of events that happened after ex-NFL star Mark Sanchez was stabbed. Diddy was finally sentenced, so we'll get into that a little bit. A freak accident involving a skydiving instructor and his student. An interesting study done to see if a fetus reacts to cigarette smoking. A popular drug that was used for morning sickness that is now linked to colorectal cancer. And the benefits of marrying your first cousin. Ew. We'll finish up this episode with your questions, all that and more on today's episode. Let's get started with this Mark Sanchez story. It's so weird.
It is weird, and the way the media was presenting it at first was he was just innocently walking down the street and got stabbed, and that is not at all what happened. So I guess let's start from the beginning. Over the weekend, I guess on Friday, he was seen around downtown Indianapolis. So he is a former NFL quarterback, but now he's a sports analyst. So by the reports I've been seeing, he was in town to cover the Raiders-Colts game. So that's why he was there. So people in the bar he was at saying that he was acting erratically and that he ended up in this alley behind the bar doing sprints. So then while he's doing sprints behind the bar, this man driving a grease truck pulled into the alley to do this pickup at a hotel, and it basically ignited this weird altercation where Mark Sanchez went up to the driver and was trying to get him to move the car, but I guess the guy had hearing aids and he didn't wear them when he was driving because the noise was too loud in the truck, so he didn't hear him at first. And then it escalated into Mark basically beating the shit out of this guy until the guy finally had to stab him to get him off of him. And he pepper sprayed him too because he was like, I think he's trying to kill me.
Wow. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
So he was staying at that hotel and like he's up and just drunk and somehow ends up doing sprints in the alley. Like what? That's what most people want to do with their drunk. Like, let me go do a workout right now. And I guess this guy was in the way of his sprints. Is that's what happened? Or
that's what it sounds like to me, is that he was, many witnesses had said that his breath smelled like alcohol really bad and he was slurring his words. So I'm going to go on the assumption he was out of his mind drunk.
At the bar, was he with anyone? Because it's just, if you're at a hotel by yourself and you go down and you have a drink or 2 or 10, it's just weird that other people would notice you acting erratically if you weren't really having conversations with people there. Assuming that he was
not necessarily, because
well, yeah, if you're complete, but I'm just trying to figure out like how drunk he really was, or if there was. I also have a theory that there could be other substances involved too that would cause that kind of rage like that.
Or could it be a combination of potential CTE mixed with excessive alcohol use?
It could be anything.
I was thinking that. Also, it's important to note that he's 38 years old and the driver was 69 years old. Like, how is a 70-year-old man supposed to go up against a professionally trained quarterback in a fight? Seriously.
Yeah, and listen, like there's photos of this 69-year-old man circulating online and on social media and in the news reports as well. And he does look like he got an ass whooping. In fact, he has a large wound across his face that is almost from his ear to across his cheek to hit the corner of his lip. It's huge. I would say that it's probably a good 10 centimeters or 4 inches long wound. And I was trying to zoom in on it to see if I could tell if it was from blunt trauma or sharp trauma. And I personally think that even if that guy's super strong and stuff and punched him in the face like that his cheek wouldn't split open that big because it looks just really deep. So I think that there's a possibility that while he was trying to stab Mark, he just got cut with the knife by accident during that time. It looks like it's a little jagged and rough, but that could just be due to having a knife that's not that sharp, or just having an irregular stab wound, or because it almost looks like a slice. It's that deep.
Well, the news is using your favorite word, a laceration, to
Well,
describe it, but then also using the word a cut.
yeah, I mean, if I had to make a guess, I would say it was made by something sharp, unless he was hit with something else that could have split. I just don't think that it would split like that, no matter what he was hit with. So I'm going with the knife made the cut somehow, but it's a big gash across his face that may require surgery. I don't know if he has any underlying broken bones or anything like that, but definitely multiple sutures to fix it, increased risk of infection, especially because he's older. And that doesn't even, I mean, he's got blood all over his body. He just looks like he got beat up. And I guess that's the most unusual part of this story because I feel like it came out pretty fast what happened, that police went into the hospital and arrested him while he was fighting for his life.
Yeah, I mean, this happened just after midnight Saturday morning, and then by Saturday, Mark Sanchez is getting surgery for the stab wounds. This other guy's in the hospital too, and then I believe he got charged either that night or the next morning. And
So-
they have all these security cameras back there. Did you see that video of him walking around after?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's how they're able to prove. I mean, I was thinking about that. You pull up behind a hotel, this guy's telling this story. I bet you the whole entire thing is on film.
Oh,
All of it.
absolutely.
And the thing that really pissed me off about this story is that on I don't know about the schedule, but they play football on Fridays, correct? Like, or on Sundays. So that was they're like, that would have been his job. He would have been at the game on Sunday announcing the game.
Yes.
Okay. So his co-worker people, whoever they are, I don't know who he announces with, were like, we just want to say that we're looking out for Mark Sanchez and we hope he has a quick recovery in the hospital and all people involved. And I'm like, what the fuck? Fuck that dude. Right?
Well, maybe the only benefit of the doubt I want to give them is they didn't know what happened, and it's because when I was seeing the
well,
reports
if I knew what
initially-
happened, then they should have known what happened. I mean, come on, like the people that work
but
at the
when-
network don't get news even faster.
But when did they put that out? Today? Because most
No,
of this
I
information
no.
came out yesterday.
No, I knew about it yesterday too. I knew about it first thing yesterday morning.
Yeah, but if you're saying they put it out on Sunday, they might not have known by the time the broadcast happened on Sunday.
Possibly, but
And the way the
I feel
news
like
was
I knew.
portraying it was that he just got randomly attacked.
Yeah, no.
And that is not at all what happened.
I feel like they knew because why would they say and all people involved?
It's bizarre. I mean, it
like,
is.
Because listen, like if you were randomly walking up the street and got stabbed, who else would be involved that I'd care about? The person that stabbed you? No. Like they knew. It just was like, I just think it wasn't. I feel like honestly they should have just not said anything.
They shouldn't have, but at the same time, they were going to, and it does seem irresponsible at this point in time with the information we know that he just, like, seemingly assaulted an innocent man trying to work, and he was drunk out of his mind or whatever was going on and just couldn't handle himself. And did he have a history of acting out like this, or was this a one-off situation?
I don't know. I just think it's weird that people have he's had so many amazing opportunities. He was on a professional football team, which so many people would kill for, right? Like it's just such a great opportunity. And then he gets this job after he was done. And you're just like, how are you that dumb that you're just screwing all that up? Like he's going to lose his job. I hope. You know what? I don't even know what's happening in 2025 because there's a possibility that someone that was drunk and tried to kill somebody will have a TV show still and everybody will be okay with it. But in theory, he should lose his job.
I would say he's likely going to get fired because I've never heard that he's this, like, incredible sports announcer that's irreplaceable. And
he wasn't like a super great player either, right? I mean, I'm sure they're all great to a certain extent if they're professional football players, but he wasn't like, listen, I'm not even going to try to name a football player right now. The one that was cute that got all the Botox recently. What's his name? Tom Brady.
He is not cute.
He was before he got the weird
like handsome Squidward.
I don't
on SpongeBob.
No, listen. I'm like anti men getting their faces done. I just don't like the way it looks at all. But he was cute before he had that done, and now he look. You know, like it's the same with John Stamos. Like I'd rather look at old John Stamos instead of like weird plastic surgery John Stamos, because my eye catches it so quickly and it's just kind of a turnoff to me.
Totally. I mean, all I know about this guy, and I could be totally wrong because I don't know anything about sports really, is just like he was this big deal because he was coming to the Jets and was going to save them. And all I know is the Jets still suck. So, like, I don't know if he did anything. I don't know what his deal is. This is 100% unacceptable. Of course, I'm looking at the charges, right? And he's initially charged with battery with injury, public intoxication, and unlawful entry of a vehicle. Bond was $300. That is ridiculous. And those were misdemeanors at first. But now the charges have been up to level 5 felony battery of causing serious injury. And the guy is suing him.
Good.
Yeah.
The guy didn't even know who he was. But like, honestly, if something like this is going to happen to you, at least have it be a multi-millionaire that could like make it go away a little bit faster.
I mean, he should be less focused on going back to work and maybe go to rehab because he clearly has a problem. And that's also why I brought up the brain injury thing, because people don't just act like this. And not all blackout drunk people act like this.
No, and that's why I was asking you about that, because I'm like, oh, if an average person gets too drunk, they don't get it doesn't automatically cause violence. But then when it's mixed with other substances, or like you said, a traumatic brain injury, which is likely, I mean, like, it's just the more and more that's coming out. Unless you could somehow skate through your career and not hit your head as a football player, I don't know. I mean, it's totally a possibility. And then you start to have another conversation like, okay, he's not like, maybe he's not a drunk scumbag. Maybe he's legitimately like
crisis.
He's having a legitimate brain pathology that needs to be addressed. So we'll report if we hear anything else. Of course, we're not going to know if he has CTE until he dies to do his autopsy and look at the brain. So we'll just have to assume that he's a douche for now.
Well, I am just wondering if he has a history of behavior like this, and if it was shocking and they were just able to keep it under wraps.
People don't just like pull an old man out of a truck and start punching them. Okay, so
well, exactly.
There's more to this story for sure.
I worked at a bar for about 10 years, and I've seen plenty of very drunk people in my time, and very seldom did it go to violent behavior like that. So I just think something else was definitely contributing. All right, Diddy was in court on Friday for sentencing after he was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. The prosecution recommended that he be sentenced to 11 years for the charges, but the judge only sentenced him to 4 years and 2 months. And the time he has served so far will count towards that sentence.
What'd you think about the sentence?
I don't know. Like, I was surprised they gave him any time at all. But at the same time, it's not enough, and he didn't get the bigger charges. I don't really know how to feel about it, honestly. I'm not surprised.
It's really hard to say, because I think that what they charged him with is not, like, we're looking at, especially, I guess for me anyway, when I think about Diddy, one of the biggest things I think about is him beating up Cassie in that video. Yeah. Right? And that video really has nothing to do with any of the charges that he was found guilty of.
I think the problem here, especially after talking to Lauren and looking at the case outside of the headlines a little bit, I just don't think they had a very strong, like, the state did not have a very strong case against him, and it got botched.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that it was, like, I think most people will agree that he's a terrible person, but they weren't able to charge him with things that really would have gotten him in trouble for a long time. And the things that they tried to, he didn't get in trouble with. But it was kind of a stretch. It's like, it was just kind of a stretch to, you know that I'm writing my celebrity death book right now, right? And
I don't even think you've announced that on the show.
Well, I am, guys. Guess what? New celebrity death book coming soon. Not really soon. It's coming when? 2027. But I'm working on it, and it's going to be awesome. So I was writing about Al Capone yesterday, and how, like, that guy, if you think about him, like, biggest mobster of all time, and just all of the murders and the racketeering, this and that, like, he got charged with tax evasion. That's how they got him, because they were just like, we're just going to get him for whatever we could get him for. And when you look at that, you're just like, who cares about tax evasion? This guy was like running a criminal crime family, right? Just it's just like it's kind of this modern day thing with Diddy. Like, let's just see what we could get him for, kind of. And to an extent, they were successful because, as you were, I'm shocked he got any time because of like countless examples. OJ Simpson, this and that, right? So to think, and I think he's shocked that he got any time.
Well, yeah, based on the courtroom sketches and then based on what, I mean, he went on this whole plea. I know I've hurt people, never do it again. I don't think abusers just stop when they get a slap on the wrist. And I'm going to consider this sentence a slap on the wrist. He beat the shit out of an innocent woman. Think about this.
But yes, he did. But this wasn't about him. That is not what the charges were brought against him at all. That was just like side evidence. So now the defense team is going to appeal this sentence. And honestly, I think that they might have a chance of getting out of it. And let me tell you why. Because a lot of the stuff that the judge was saying about him as to why he's deciding to put him in jail for this long is things that he was found not guilty for. Right?
Okay.
So that really can't be used in the sentencing because that's not what they found him guilty for. Like, he should have been sentencing based on the guilty pleas and that's it. So like they might be able to go back and say, oh, he's bringing up the girlfriend and the this and the that. And it's like, he wasn't charged with any of that stuff. If you want to look at it on paper, and they have really good lawyers, so that's totally a possibility. But this dude, you know that Diddy had things planned for like next week, events to show up to.
Oh, because he was that confident.
Because he was that confident that he had served his time and was getting out. I mean, so just to tell him, how many years did he get total? 4?
He got 4 years and 2 months, but he's been in jail since last September. So his defense team had recommended a 14-month sentencing. So basically, if he had been given the 14-month sentence, he would have been eligible to get out now because that was the time served already, right? But I don't know. I've been hearing other experts talk about they weren't surprised by the time given and they think he's going to get out probably by next year. If, let's say the appeal is unsuccessful and he does have to serve the 4, he'll have good behavior, everything like that. He's not going the whole time. There's no way.
Do you want to hear something so funny? He has been complaining about the conditions that he's living in and how his food is cold and he doesn't have a warm bed and this and that. And they tried to use that to say, well, he shouldn't have to serve maybe as much time because he's been living under like extra strenuous circumstances.
Well, so is every other prisoner, and if you're so bothered by it, take your money for prison reform. I don't know what you expect.
And this is the thing too. It's like, of course this is terrible for him because this is a guy that probably before he shows up at a hotel like requests a Mariah Carey treatment of like 10 dozen white roses in the room and you know, certain thread count of sheets, and he's got the amount of money that, like, think about this. If you and I were like Diddy money and we were traveling, I would be like, I need my room to be set up with an electric blanket everywhere I go and just like things that make me very comfortable, right? I want to have all the stuff that makes me super comfortable. So when you have that level of like getting all of that stuff, would I, let's say for when I just went to CrimeCon, would I be eating Rice Krispie treats for dinner? No. You know what I mean? So like he's used to having.
Well, you didn't have to be eating Rice Krispie treats.
I know,
but
they were. Listen, the Gaylord hotels have the best Rice Krispie treats. Anyone that's been there will say that. But seriously, like he's just used to. He could probably go to LA and have his people call his favorite restaurant and make sure that that food is in the hotel room when he gets there. Like just another level of catering.
Oh, fucking well. Don't do weird shit.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, of course this is a culture shock to him because
Jail isn't supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to make you regret the bad decisions you made. And if he really cares that much about it, he should try to invest money into the prison system and make it more comfortable for other prisoners.
well, he has a lot of time to think about this now, so he will get out. And like, listen, I'm not defending him at all because I think that he should be in jail just because I think he's a terrible person. But he went through a jury and they said he was not guilty of a lot of the things that would have put him in jail longer.
But I think a large
that's
part
not-
of that is because the case was weak against him. Like,
Yeah.
I think if they had a good case, he probably would have been charged
he's
with
also
those, or
he's
convicted
also
of those
Diddy.
things.
Like, I think it's really hard to get a fair and impartial jury when there's someone of that stature, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, an important part
I mean,
thought,
Pop knows who Diddy is. Like, everybody knows who he is. He's like a super celebrity.
an important part I thought Lauren brought up too was like, there's no cameras in this courtroom, so we're relying on people's reporting, being in the room, and a lot of it was exaggerated.
Yeah, and the drawings are neat.
The drawings are pretty good, but I was wondering if that guy we met at CrimeCon last year did them, but I think another person did.
Okay, let's get on with what's our next story?
So over the weekend, the skydiving instructor and a student were doing a tandem jump, and I guess at some point they got separated and the instructor wasn't wearing his own parachute, so he plummeted to his death, and then the student ended up getting trapped in a tree, survived, but that was a miracle in and of itself.
Yeah, I don't really know much about skydiving except I would never ever do it in a million years. I really
Never.
think that people are really courageous that do it because it probably feels really cool when it's successful. But the fear of this particular case, for example, so I guess what happened is the guy was harnessed to the other guy when they jumped out, and the part of the harness got caught on the edge of the plane and like ripped off him, and he essentially plummeted 11,000 feet to the ground.
Was
I-
he? Would he even be intact when they found
No,
him?
no, absolutely not. He would be. I don't even want to think about it. I have a post in the gross room about a person that fell out of the landing gear of a plane that was a stowaway and fell from that high up, and it just looks terrible. It's definitely not intact even a little bit, and but that's disturbing. I think the really crazy part of this story is that the other dude survived.
Yeah, and he was suspended in a tree for hours before they were able to get him out, which must have been horrifying. I mean, I'm thinking of this guy falling to his death. You would hope at some point midair they'd just pass out or something, because otherwise, don't you feel like that could take up to a couple minutes for you to fully fall that far down? So you're aware you're about to die that long?
I don't even want to think about it. It's just, it makes me feel gross to even think about it. Just the height thing is so scary. And yeah, I mean, one sense you could be like, the guy died doing what he loved to do. That was another story that we caught this week because we just didn't have enough time about a person that was rock climbing. You remember that documentary Free Solo?
Yeah.
With that crazy dude who was like climbing these mountains without
Oh, that was the guy that died?
No, it was
Oh.
just a guy doing that particular mountain that he climbed in that documentary. So it's just like, there's something to be said, I guess, if you're gonna die anyway, die doing something that you love to do. But in this particular case, it's, you know, so this guy, so there's a picture, and I asked Gabe this morning because the picture in the article is a guy in a parachute at the top of what appears to be pretty high trees, and then firemen with a ladder up trying to get him down. So number one, that guy was in the tree hanging there for God knows how long, but they said it was hours, right? And I asked Gabe, and he said that it could be just based upon the ladders, because it's not a fire truck, like an aerial device ladder. It's just ones that they would have on their trucks to put up. He said that it's anywhere from like 45 to 60 feet up in the air.
Jeez.
So just imagine hanging there upside down and no one coming. Like, that would be my fear. Like, what if no one finds me and I'm just here until I die?
Oh, totally. I mean, I don't know. The whole concept of skydiving freaks me out so bad, especially when you hear these horrific stories of how it went wrong.
That's how I feel about hot air balloons too. Like, I really think they're the coolest things ever and I want to be in one, but like I just could never do it.
No, I mean, especially I feel like
Maybe
there's been a lot more accidents than normal, so
maybe like if I live to be 99, you could just send me up there by myself cuz like if I fall, what's the difference?
that's a good attitude to have, I guess. This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, so this week in the grocery room for our high profile dissection, we did something a little bit different and fun this week. So in October, we tend to talk a little bit more. We celebrate Halloween, I guess you would say, with these death dissections. Last year, we did a couple fun ones on Sleepy Hollow and Seven, right?
Yeah,
They're the two
7.
that we did. That was really fun, just going through the movies and saying what was plausible and what was not. And so we started off this October with one on Halloween. So we talked a little bit about the history of Halloween, but more importantly, how it has evolved from what it was to what it is now, which is, in my opinion, a celebration of crimes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's specifically murder, but also we go into all the different ways of it celebrates sexual assault with some of these costumes that we've seen. So it's really interesting, and the decorations too, of course. So check that out. All that and more in the gross room for only $5.99 a month.
Head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up. All right, a new study has come out showing how fetuses react differently with smoking mothers versus those who don't smoke.
So this study was published in Acta Pediatrica and found that a fetus of a smoking mother touched their face and mouth more often than a fetus of a non-smoking mom. So that's really interesting, actually. And it's such a small study, so they're going to have to do a larger study. But I guess research so far has shown that if a fetus is in utero and they have more movements, it means that they're in a more the mother's usually more stressful, so it's a more stressful environment. And that has been known to cause issues down the line that you might not see right away. So I guess that's why this research is really important. So what happened is in this particular study, like I said, it was small, and they looked at the fetuses of both moms who smoked during pregnancy and moms who didn't smoke, and they monitored it with 4D ultrasound, which is super high def, so they're able to see what was going on as well. And they did 4 different scans between 24 and 36 weeks pregnant, and they found that there was a 58% increase in mouth movement of these babies and a 69% increase in self-touch, where they were touching their face or their head. And so these babies were all born and they were all healthy, normal weights and everything like that. But this researcher would like to follow them further on, because their research suggests that if a fetus, as the fetus gets older and their brain's developing more, they should be moving less but have more complex movements just with their brain becoming mature. And in this case, they're saying that these babies that are born to a mom that is a smoker, it might possibly be affecting their neurodevelopment, basically. So maybe down the line, they might show to have cognitive issues or just not meeting milestones the same as other children that are born to non-smoking mothers. So we already know that smoking during pregnancy is terrible anyway, but this might just be another thing to kind of add to the list.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because I saw this article said all infants in the study were born at a healthy weight and size with no obvious health issues at that time. So this is something that would present later on, is what you're saying.
Smoking is just a weird thing because, like, right now, it's honestly, like, now in 2025, it's so bizarre to think of a person smoking during pregnancy because it's just
Well, I can't believe they got 4 people to willingly join the study because I feel like people definitely do it, but it's kind of a hidden thing.
Yeah, people do it, but I mean, again, another thing that I was writing about is smoking addiction in the new book coming out, and it's an addiction, so people still do it. But people really like. I'm just saying now compared to Gabe's mom smoked when she was pregnant. Nanny smoked when she was pregnant with all them. Like
Well, it
this was
explains
normal.
what's wrong with
This was
mom.
normal, exactly. But I'm just saying, like, now that we know all of this stuff, this is just another thing to add on to it. And sometimes, like, I think that Nanny told me when Aunt Tina was born, I think, that she was born very, very small and her placenta, she said, yeah, her placenta was like white. And I was like, well, that's bad, right?
What does
So
that mean,
it,
though?
it
A
just
white
means that
placenta.
because when the placenta is kind of the lifeline between the mom and the fetus. And when it's white, it means that it's infarcted or dead. So that blood flow going back and forth between the mom and the fetus is interrupted in some kind of a way. And sometimes, rarely, I mean, in pathology, we see little areas that are white sometimes, but to see one that has a lot of they're called infarcts within the placenta is not common. I've only seen a couple, and it usually is compatible with death. So so not for the mother, for the fetus. So um she even I just remember because when I got into pathology and stuff, my grandma was like, yeah, they said they wanted to keep it and put it in a jar because it was so weird. And and I was just like, why can't I have that? You should have taken it home. But yeah, so like I just am making the point that millions of women used to smoke being pregnant, and some of the babies were born and had problems, but most of them weren't. And in this case, you could see, like, they say all the time, if you smoke during pregnancy, you have an increased risk of stillbirth, miscarriage, low birth weight. Well, this kind of proves against that, right? Because that didn't happen in this case. So uh, but it happens with some. So that's why you say that, just so, because you don't know which person and which fetus is going to have the problem.
Well, let's jump off that point to talk about this other study coming from University of Texas Health Science Center, Houston. So they are linking a popular drug taken during pregnancy decades ago and colorectal cancer.
Yeah, so this is called Benedictine. That's what it looks like it's called, an antispasmodic diclocyclamine. And this was supposed to be used for morning sickness. One thing that I guess I didn't really realize until I read about this study was that UCLA recently has confirmed that morning sickness is a healthy immune response that prevents the body from rejecting the baby during pregnancy. Not to say that everyone has to have that, because I didn't have morning sickness at all, and my mom didn't either. Like, some people just don't get it. But all that is an immune response, whereas in the past it used to be thought as a mental illness. Shocker.
Oh my God.
So they used to just think it was in the woman's head, or it just was like, oh, you're pregnant, so you just think you're feeling this way, but you really don't feel this way. And
I'm laughing because it's so typical that, like, women just, as always,
Get
are
blown
just
off.
so blown off about everything.
that's another I'm hitting a lot of good points in the book. That's another point that I wrote about this weekend too, was just how women get blown off, and in this case died from it, the one that I was writing about. I'm not going to give away all the answer, but yeah, so I don't know, you know, think about this, like when my mom was pregnant, because this was like during the time now when my mom was pregnant with me in the 70s, like going to your doctor, and let's say she was like, I had morning sickness, and they gave her this medication, which is still used today, I believe, but it's to relieve bowels. I think if you have a lot of like inflammatory bowel disease or irritable bowel syndrome, it's used to kind of, when you have that feeling you're bloated, it's causes you to not have muscle spasms in your bowel.
So, wait, so it was given to pregnant women like between the 50s and the 80s and could potentially cause colorectal cancer, but now it is used as treatment for that same system?
No. So it was given to women who had morning sickness, and they believe whatever mechanism works on the GI tract is also working on the mechanism of the GI tract in the fetus when the mom's pregnant while she's taking this medication.
Okay.
So that's where they think it's targeting, is the GI tract of the fetus, which is coming to find out that adults that were born to mothers that took this are now getting colon cancer later in life more frequently.
So it's interesting because this medication was initially approved in 1956, and they said by the mid 70s, as many as 25% of pregnant women were taking it. And then it was voluntarily discontinued in 1983 after it became a huge thing in lawsuit as causing birth defects.
I have to talk to mom about this because I swear I got a pill one time when I was having like one of these bouts of like GI issues. I swear this is one of the drugs that the doctor gave me because they said to take it if you felt bloated and it would make you not feel bloated anymore. And I believe it was the same medication. And then I swear I told mom about it and she said, "Oh, I used to take that." I swear she did. But I have
Well,
to confirm because I wasn't able to talk to her this morning, because she's probably still sleeping.
I know.
Singer to her. But no, I always call Pop when I'm on the way to bring the kids to school because it's early and he's awake and I'm like, "Where's mommy?" "Oh, she's in there sleeping still."
She texted me at like 8 o'clock in the morning the other day, and I was like, what is it, the middle
Why
of
are
the
you
night
awake?
for you?
Or like yeah, if she calls me early, I'm like, somebody died because
No,
why are you
totally.
awake?
I
But yeah,
text
anyway, I didn't ask her. Um but yeah, so many people took it and it seemed like, how many times are we going to say this? It seemed like such an innocent, benign drug. And now, so if my mother took that in the 1970s, now all of a sudden it's a problem. That's why you have to like not trust every single drug because it could cause look at this one. It's causing problems 40 years down the line for people.
Well, is it really the recommendation to try to avoid taking any medication during pregnancy if
Yeah,
you can? But
if you can.
obviously,
Yeah.
obviously there's certain circumstances you have to. And I mean, I don't know because personally nausea is my worst ailment I've ever experienced in my life. I'd rather shit my pants in public than be
Okay,
nauseous
simmer
for
down.
5 minutes. So I can't imagine feeling that way for a couple of months with just like no relief in sight. But I don't know. It's kind of crazy that we see these drugs. Wasn't there another drug that a lot of women took back then too that caused birth defects? I was
Yeah,
thinking about
it's
this.
called
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, it's called thio. Let me look it up.
So I was thinking about this because after everything came out with Jeffrey Dahmer, his dad had said his mom took all these medications when she was pregnant with him, and they were wondering if
Like
that could.
what?
So two notable things was phenobarbital and morphine. She was taking in her first trimester, and his dad said she was taking up to 26 different pills per day the first couple months she was pregnant with him.
So you're thinking that that's what caused him to be
will have some brain issues that then made him think that he could murder people, cut them up, and eat their body parts.
thalidomide.
Yeah.
And remember all of those when those babies were born, that they had really small limbs.
Yeah, like it was a big problem.
Yeah, that is really a crazy thing. And I mean, and back then it's just like you look at history and you just say, well, oh, back then, they didn't know or whatever. They still don't know. Now we might know more, but not completely, right? So I don't know if you mentioned this, sorry, that you said when the drug was available, but then they reformulated the drug because people were having babies born with birth defects, it said, and it didn't specify what.
No.
This is like more of an acute thing. They were saying the babies were born with birth defects, so they reformulated it to not have the dicyclamine, and then they just didn't use it anymore because that's what works, clearly. So then they came out with this other drug in 2013 called Diclegis, possibly FDA approved for morning sickness. And do you remember that Kim Kardashian was like the sponsor for it? It was right around the time I was pregnant with Lillian. She was the sponsor for this drug, and she would post pictures of it like on Instagram and stuff. I guess she was getting paid for it, and she didn't put any of the warnings, and the FDA like came at her and was like, if you're going to post about that, you have to put all of the negative side effects that could happen with it and stuff. And she had to put out this big like, oh, I'm sorry, I should have done that, and I
Wow.
got a slap on the wrist and this and that.
I don't remember that, but that is interesting that you brought that up.
So the thing is, yeah, you just have to, I mean, and this just happens, it's not even just with pregnancy, it's just with any medications that they're just like, okay, I always bring up Singular. That's a huge one that
Oh,
I gave
yeah.
all of my kids, and that now it's just like, oh, it might cause this and it might cause that, and it's just scary.
I guess it's just not realistic to wait decades to see how a medication's going to affect people before you release it. Obviously,
I
I
mean,
feel like that's what should happen, but it's just not realistic that that's how it operates, but it's scary.
that's what's scary with a lot of the different just the vaccines and this and that. Well, the newer one, I should say, certain ones that they're just, they're looking and they're giving it to people, and then they're just like, a lot of the drugs are just kind of like, yes, it doesn't look like if we put it in a person they're going to drop dead right away, but like they're watching us as as the years go on. So you're part of the experiment as well, in a way,
No, totally. All right, this story is so weird. So, UK's National Health Service, the NHS, put out this really strange report discussing the benefits of first cousin marriage.
They're saying that there's an outrage. Like, yeah, like most people aren't okay with this.
No, I mean, I think just morally people aren't okay with it. And I could be wrong, but is it not true that there's many studies backing up all the negative impacts it could have on a baby?
Yeah, I mean, when first cousins that they literally have the same grandparents. I mean, how weird is that? Right?
It's very weird.
I just can't even think of it. Like, it just thinking, cuz sometimes people aren't really close with their family, and they might live in another state and barely have met their cousins, if they ever met their cousins. So I don't think that part is weird of it necessarily, cuz right now you're thinking about like us going to family parties, and these people have been our cousins, and we see them all the time, or this or that. But like in a distant situation, I don't think that part of it is gross per se, if you don't have that kind of relationship with them.
No, it's
But
gross.
you're genetically similar, too similar. The closer your genes are, the possibility that there could be bigger problems, because let's say you carry a gene for cystic fibrosis, right? The chance of you meeting a regular person off the street that also carries it is so much less than a person in your own family that probably carries it. And then you're going to have a baby that has cystic fibrosis. Like, that's the biggest thing, is when you're a carrier of a gene, that the chance of it coming to your offspring is just so much higher than when you don't, just because your genome is so close.
All right, so I guess what they were researching was, should the UK government ban first cousin marriage? And then the report went on to describe various benefits, including that marrying a first cousin included stronger extended family support systems and economic advantages, while not at all pointing out how dangerous it could be to have a kid with what you're saying, like the genetics so close together, and how it's just morally wrong.
But this is like a major organization out there that's like the
It's their health
CDC or
system.
yeah, like the WHO or something. It's just weird. Like, why? I don't know. Why would you even say anything?
It was weird, and they've taken it down since they've gotten all the backlash.
You think?
But I just thought it was really interesting. But, of course, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip are cousins.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, is it different over there? I mean, listen, I think all people that live over there think the same exact way that we do, but there is a culture over there of they're all a little bit too closely related.
No, well, look at this. It says, in Western countries, the practice is widely deemed as taboo, but in other cultures such as the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, it's still a common occurrence. And they're saying worldwide, 10% of all marriages are between first and second cousins.
They also say that they're
That's
not
a
even
high
sure that's estimated. They think that it could be even more, because they said because it's so frowned upon in some cultures, it's not reported. And I would go as far to say, like, I'm thinking about when I got married to Gabe. I don't. How would they know if we were cousins? They
Well,
wouldn't.
some states make you do blood tests.
But they're not. What blood test are they doing? They're doing a blood test to see if you have HIV and shit. They're not doing genealogy on you.
No,
They would never be able to. No, there's no way that they're doing a genetic testing. They're not.
I swear to God. And so in the United States, it's saying 24 states prohibit it. 8 states, which is Arizona, Illinois, Indiana, Maine, Minnesota, Tennessee, Utah, Wisconsin, still allow it under specific conditions. What are the conditions?
But I just don't. I don't even understand why anybody. Why would anybody even tell anybody?
I don't think you're
if you want
I don't think you're coming forward with it, but let's say you live in a small town in the middle of Tennessee. Everybody probably knows you're related.
So like, just think about this from. Let's say 2 of our first cousins got married and we were like, no. Like, who do you call? The police? What? Who's going to do anything? Who do you go to really, like, to complain about it?
I'm no snitch, but it's not to say that other people in our family
I think some of this shit is in
wouldn't.
writing just so they don't, so they're like, oh, this is illegal, but what are they really going to do about it? Like, the cops are going to come over and say, are you guys cousins? And you could say no. Like, the way that they would have to go to get your blood from both of you, or a buccal smear, and do a DNA profile to see how closely related you are. I just think they put it out there and they hope that, like, people read it and not do it. That's it.
I just don't understand who would want to do it, but I guess they're saying we're in the minority of cultures that think it's so unacceptable. Because we see it as something that's incestuous, but other people just think it's totally normal.
I feel like with my cousins, because I certainly have cousins that are male that are my age, I just always had them in, like, brother category.
Well, they should be.
You know what I mean? So it's just weird. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, if you think differently, share your thoughts.
Did you talk about the person that there's a social media influencer for everyone, for everything. They all have their own shtick, and this particular one is that they're both cousins. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see it, but I just can't get behind it.
They're first cousins, and people were just like, no, and freaking out about it and stuff. And it is, when you look at the picture of them as a couple, they don't look alike at all. You would never be able to tell. So I'm like, why are you telling people?
Because they want the attention.
Yeah, but really, because sometimes I see kids that are cousins and you're like, holy shit, they look a lot alike. I think we even have some resemblance to some of our cousins, but then other cousins we have no resemblance to. You know what I mean? It just depends on how close.
I think most of our family all has similarities.
Yeah, but some of them will have, like, lighter eyes or something. That's what's happened in this particular couple. Like, the woman has what looks like brown eyes and darker skin, and the guy's like a lighter skin person with lighter eyes, and they don't have. He has a very skinny nose, and she has a wider nose. Like, I just, like, look at both of them, and I'm like, you guys could have totally pulled this off, and nobody would have known.
I'm just like, how do you get there? Are you just at a family party and you start making out or something?
You're just thinking of it differently. Like, think about Lillian and Lucia, for example. Like, their first cousins from Aunt Cam live in Utah, and we see them once every couple years. Like, they have no relationship like that, like an everyday.
Yes, but the the invisible boundary should still be there. I
It's
think
just
about it with people that are
different.
step siblings too, like
Like the Brady Bunch.
you're technically not blood, but, like, you're being raised in an environment that you would be. So just put the wall up.
Yeah, I guess.
It's bizarre. Okay, let's move on to questions of the week. Every Friday on the @MotherKnowsThat Instagram account or YouTube, you guys can ask whatever you want. As a fan of the Kennedy family, have you read Rosemary the Hidden Kennedy Daughter, and do you have thoughts on it?
No, I haven't, actually. I have thoughts on it, believe me. I haven't read that, but maybe I will read that, because I guess you're telling me it's good if you're asking if I've read it. We did do a celebrity death dissection on her. I'm not sure how I'm going to handle the Kennedys in the book yet, because I want to keep them all together. I probably will, but, like, let's say, for example, Mary Jo Kopechne was not considered to be a celebrity when she died. Her name is known because Ted Kennedy was involved with her death, if not caused her death, right? But that story is of interest to people who are Kennedy fans. So would that go in the celebrity death book? Like, I
Well,
don't
if
know.
he's a celebrity, he was a senator or a politician of some sort.
Yeah. And
If
they
he's
were
a
definitely
celebrity
also,
involved in the death, then yeah.
yeah, that's what I think. And I think it's the same thing with Rosemary. Like, she wasn't famous per se, but her brother was. And that's, I mean, unfortunately, stories like hers may have been happening with other people, which, to give you guys just like a brief overview, is that she was considered to be a rambunctious child and teenager, that just wasn't. I mean, you know that the dad really wanted her to be chilled and settled down because they had a certain image to portray to the world. And she was just a little bit wild and decided to do an experimental surgery on her called a lobotomy. And when she came out of it, it was essentially botched and she lost a lot of her mental function. It didn't kill her. She lived to be an old woman, actually, but he basically sent her away to a home and was like, okay, you guys take care of her. And a lot of the family members didn't know what was going on with her. And it came as a shock as to the real life story of what happened. And it's, I mean, obviously they had a lot of money and power, so they had access to doctors that would just be willing to do something like this to somebody. But so I am familiar with the story. We wrote about it a couple years ago, but I am interested in hearing more details about it for sure, especially if I'm going to be writing about that in the book.
All right, 2. How exactly does cancer kill someone?
So this is a good question. It could kill somebody in a couple different ways. So, number one, when you have cancer, you have cells that are abnormal and they don't function as regular cells. So if you develop, let's say, for example, you develop cancer in your pancreas. Your pancreas has a certain function. One function is to produce insulin that gets secreted into your bloodstream and other hormones. The other is to secrete digestive enzymes that go into the pancreatic duct to help break down your food. When you have a tumor that is growing in the cells that normally provide insulin for the bloodstream, those cells don't work normal. They don't produce things normal. And all of a sudden, you're going to become a diabetic just because of that, or because of the surgery you have to get associated with that. So those cells could then move over, so they can metastasize, or they could spread to, let's say, for example, the liver. Like the pancreas would commonly spread to the liver. That would make you a stage 4 cancer. So now those cells are taking up your normal liver cells, and then your liver stops functioning properly because there's just pancreas tumor cells in there that aren't functioning as the liver. So that's one reason. Another reason is that you could get something called cachexia when you have cancer, which is a wasting of the muscles and malnutrition, and you just so you could die because of that, just because of the wasting that goes with cachexia. Other things, that tumors sometimes can be very vascular because they need a lot of blood supply to feed them, and sometimes those tumors can bleed and they could cause you to bleed to death. So that's why anytime if you sometimes when you have colon cancer, one of the first symptoms will be like you poop and there's blood, right? And that could definitely be a sign of cancer. So there's times where people bleed so bad from their tumors that it causes them to essentially bleed to death. It also can increase your risk for clotting. I know that doesn't make sense, but you're at an increased risk of getting pulmonary embolism and stuff. And then, of course, if you're on any kind of treatments, we said with surgeries, but also chemotherapy, radiation, they all carry risks too. So just a combination of one or all of those things could cause you to die from cancer.
All right, last. Would you ever consider becoming a daily show?
Would you?
I would. I'm very interested in that. I just also at the same time don't see how it's possible with running the website too.
Yeah, I mean, I would I would be interested if you guys actually want to hear from us every day because it does suck because we cut a lot of stories and that does bum me out because I feel like there's so many things I always want to talk about and I'm just kind of like, there's just not enough time. And we do cover a lot of the cut stories in the gross room when we do our episode in there on usually on Fridays towards the end of the week. But yeah, I mean, if we got paid good, I would I'd be into it. Yeah, if it could supplement like some other things that we have to do. But yeah, I don't know. Not right now anyway. Right now I'm just like I barely have any extra time and I'm scared to take on more stuff because I don't want to be working 24/7, you know.
Yeah, even when we up to 3, it was a little bit of an adjustment, but I feel like we've got it kind of worked out right now, but that means we have no free time. Like we have a very packed schedule.
We have all these stories and then it's like we just keep meeting all these awesome people that we want to interview. So we have a bunch of interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks. And but we love it. So we want to do it more if it's possible for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best way moving forward is, you got to help, you as the listeners have to help our show grow too by leaving us nice reviews and subscribing to YouTube and promoting our clips, things like that. Because the more the show grows, the better we have the opportunity to do more content for you guys. But right now it's just a little crazy. So we'd like to, but hopefully we'll get there one day. All right, guys, we are going to be sponsoring the golf carts at the Keeping Hope Alive Golf Classic next Sunday. And then the following week, we're going to be at Darkside, New Jersey in Edison doing a live show. Please head over to Apple or Spotify to leave us reviews, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and submit stories to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
You know, I just realized that we didn't talk about our event with Cheryl.
Oh, yeah.
The wildlife CSI training. 2 minutes.
Okay.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. We drove out there. It was really cool. I was not expecting it. Like you just never know what you're going to pull up to. And it was like really far away from us, but the zoo was beautiful. It was so clean in there. Apparently up till a couple years ago, it was only $1 to go there, which I can't even believe how they kept up the facilities to look so nice.
The sloth was so cute.
Yeah, so the presenters presented in front of a sloth, and it was being extra cute the entire time.
And it wasn't in a cage, and it was just like hanging off branches, and it was so cool to watch it.
Yeah, we had a really good time. The presentations were really amazing, so hopefully we'll have both presenters on very soon because you guys would love both of their stories. And we also met some awesome people. We met Sarah from the gross room. We had Caroline there, of course.
Yeah.
And some other listeners.
We have every single time we do an event, it's just really awesome and great, everyone that we get to meet. So we're going to be, and it introduced us to some new people that were like, oh yeah, these guys need to be on our show. So we're going to definitely bring you that. We'll talk about it more later though.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.